The Virtual Breakaway Podcast with your hosts Nick and Junior and producer Vince, bringing you elite fantasy hockey information to help you win your fantasy leagues and win at life.
Episode 57.
I passed it off to you like Suzuki passed his hat trick off to Anderson today.
What a gentleman.
I try.
I would have never passed it up, by the way. Captain, no captain, I'm scoring that hat trick. It would have been his first career hat trick, by the way.
No.
Yep.
Impossible. Suzuki's never had a hat trick?
First career NHL hat trick.
Wow.
Passed up for
What a
Christian
shit player.
Dvorak.
For Christian Dvorak.
He's our captain.
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, it was the matinee game
That's right.
of Remembrance Day.
Happy Remembrance Day. Thank you for your service. Thank you for the freedom that we've been given to be able to do silly things like this
Yep.
on a Monday night.
Let's
And
forget.
that all comes with sacrifices of other people. So we appreciate you. We're all wearing our poppies today. If you watch the YouTube, you shall see that as well. Also, please, now that I mentioned YouTube, don't forget, thank you all for listening. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for... thank you for your comments, your likes, your subscribes. Please...
Keep them coming.
Go out there. That's right. Keep it coming. We need the feedback. We want the feedback. Even if it's something that you don't agree with, our podcast is all about creating discussion, and that's what we enjoy doing.
Well,
So
part of our rumbling segment is going to be based off a discussion we had on TikTok with a listener about Caufield, who didn't like Vince's take. Well, mind you, we all agreed with him, so the take that Caufield will be a 40-goal scorer. So we're going to discuss that and really give an explanation, because it was part of our odd-man rush, so it was just basically a quick take, you know? So we'll go through it. And
12 goals now.
12 goals, on pace for 62.
Yeah, excellent.
Not quite 82 points, but he's on pace for 6 assists. Yeah. Anyways, we'll get to it. But so please comment, encourage, disagree, agree. Let's talk.
It all helps the algorithm.
Let me talk to you.
It all helps the algorithm. Also, today, I don't know if anybody noticed, but I found out today, it's the Hall of Fame inductees ceremony.
Yes.
Oh, yep, we have Mr. Shea Weber going in.
That's right. Well, David Poile, Colin Campbell, Jeremy Roenick, Pavel Datsyuk, that's the magic man, Natalie Darwitz, Chrissy Wendell, and like Vince mentioned, Shea Weber. And I just want to start the episode off by giving you guys a quick question, right? So Shea Weber has never won a Stanley Cup. He's never won a Norris Trophy. Does he belong in the Hall of Fame? Is he Hall of Very Good, or is he Hall of Fame?
I think the criteria to become a Hall of Famer have been watered down. And it has nothing to do with...
But for you,
Yeah,
is he a Hall of Famer
No.
for you or not?
He's just he was a
So
very...
Hall of Very Good for you.
Yeah, a very good player, a very steady defense, an elite steady defenseman. But to me, Hall of Famer, people break records, people who win trophies, and not necessarily the Stanley Cup. Like, just people, because you could be a fourth liner and win 4 Stanley Cups, but you win the Conn Smythe, the Art Ross, stuff like that.
Okay, Junior.
You know what? It's very hard. It's very hard because everybody knows Shea Weber. Everybody knew when Shea Weber was on the ice, and for good reasons. Not because he was some kind of goon, but like you were scared of him, both physically and offensively. In an era where you don't put up a lot of points, the guy almost had a point per game.
Yeah,
80 point. He had an 80-point season in 82 games. So he's had success on better teams such as Team Canada. So he's won medals.
he's been nominated for what I was going to say. He's been nominated for the Norris, actually quite a few times. He
Never won though, right?
Never won. Came runner-up, I think, twice. Nominated 4 times in total. He lost to guys like Lindstrom, Nicholas Lindstrom, Drew Doughty, P.K. Subban that 1 year. So it's just to and no Stanley Cups. I mean, that's a team sport, right? That's a team award, not an individual award.
And
So hard to say, but
how many defensemen nowadays in the era of goals, let's say, score 15 to 20 goals? He was doing that almost regularly.
yeah, and he was a complete player. He was defensive. He was hard hitting. He was always in the right position. He would clear the front of the net, and he would have the offense.
It's just one of those where I would say I wouldn't be upset if he wasn't part of the Hall of Fame, and I don't mind him being part of the Hall of Fame. I would have wished he had just a bit more of individual accolades, but I mean, I'm okay with this.
Is he going in as a Predator or as a Hab?
You know what? I think it goes unappreciated, the time he spent with the Utah Hockey Club. Most likely a Predator, no?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He should go in
He
as a
should go in as a Predator. All right, guys. So should we get started? Our next and first segment of the day. Get this podcast rolling, Mr. Producer Vince. Boom.
Where's the odd man rush thing, Nick? Why'd you?
Usually the producer is ready when we start the show.
Usually someone doesn't touch my board.
Here we go.
Touch it.
Odd Man Rush.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. I am your host for the Odd Man Rush. Nick, first question. You sent us a tweet Instagram page picture about AHL players under 22, scoring leaders. Interesting names. Who stands out to you or are most looking forward to seeing full-time in the NHL? So I'll just fire down a few names so people know. So Miroshchenko, 11 points in 11 games. Joshua Roy, 10 points in 9 games. Isaac Rosen, 10 points in 9 games. Luca Cagnoni, 9 points in 9 games. Logan Mailloux, 9 points in 4 games. The Dvorsky, 8 points in 11 games. And I'll give Joachim Kemmel, 8 points, 9 games. Owen Beck, 8 points in 9 games. And Matt Tkachuk, 8 points in 9 games. Which ones of these stands out to you? You think can make the jump to the NHL again this year and keep up this performance?
So 2 names that I found interesting on this list were Luca Cagnoni
Yeah.
as a defenseman, right?
Yeah.
I got that right. 9 points in 9 games, very good. Obviously not Logan Mailloux, but still very, very good. The other person that I found interesting in this one was Luca Del Bel Belouz. 9 games played, 8 points. And this was a player, I think that, if I'm not mistaken, went in the second round. I think went in the 4th round in our Lama draft. And I picked him, so that's why I'm bringing him up. But I thought this was an interesting list, absolutely. Thank you for naming the list, basically. And it's always fun to see how these young guys do in the AHL because it is a pro league. It's not just a developmental league like a junior league. So points are harder to come by.
Yeah, and for fantasy purposes, you want to see production in the AHL. I mean,
Absolutely.
you're not going to get called up to the NHL and not produce. Like,
Well, I mean, it's
There's
rare that
exceptions.
somebody jumps from junior directly to the NHL. I mean, we saw it with Lane Hudson. We bring him up again, but we saw it with Lane Hudson. We don't see it very often. Like Matty Chuck came in. He had a great camp. He looks ready. Columbus just went and grabbed Fabro off of waivers. Right, so putting more people in his way, you know. So
I don't think it's more people in the way. I think they just want to develop him properly.
yeah, they don't want to force.
Yeah,
his,
there's no reason to, especially with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Right now they're in a rebuild, so get that guy most minutes, most experience in the AHL, which is still, like you said, a professional men's league, and then when he's ready to make his way up. Junior, this one hurts. This one worries me, Junior. So you tell me whether I have to worry or not. Nemec sent down to the AHL. Is this worrisome?
No, I think you should be happy that he's going to play and develop. I think there was too many people in the way in New Jersey. Yeah, look, the stats are not good. 1 assist in 9 games, a -2, 9 shots on goal, 1 hit only. He was averaging 60 minutes of ice time. That's probably going to go to 20 plus in the AHL. He was only seeing 6% of the power play. Last year, he had 26. I think they kind of rushed this, Nemec last year, with all the injuries they had, they kind of rushed him. And because he played so much last year, they kind of just expected him to be there. Now, Keefe maybe had a say here and said, you know what, just send him to the AHL. Luke Hughes is back. We have a solid. They went to get Pesci. They went to get Kovacevic. Like, why have him here on the third pairing when he could go probably dominate in the AHL?
Well, I think it's exactly what you said. Sometimes you don't want to rush these guys in when they could have more playing time in the AHL. And New Jersey is a little bit the opposite of Columbus. Whereas Columbus is looking at not doing anything this year, most likely. Jersey is looking to compete. So you don't have time to train Nemec while giving him ice time, while having all these other guys that you just mentioned already in the lineup.
With the expectation to contend for a cup.
Exactly.
And in his first year with Utica Comets, he had 34 points in 65 games. Last year, before they called him up, 8 points in 13 games. So,
do you remember when we used to call the segment that's a 30-second take for the last 3 minutes? Yeah, I think we're going on to the 5-minute takes.
It's
This is
unfortunate because the expectations were raised based off him being called up, but at the same time, I think this is much better for the development. I mean, he's only 19 years old. I think there's no panic.
Nick, Winnipeg still on a roll, becoming first team in the NHL history to win 14 out of 15 games. Does this start solidify Winnipeg as a playoff team already?
Have you seen, and I started on a timer for 30 seconds, and I already wasted 5 of it. Have you
telling me about your timer?
Yeah. Have you seen Hellebuck and his numbers?
Yeah, I have him in our league.
You remember when we did the preview, I think you had mentioned how far Winnipeg goes as far as Hellebuck takes them. Well,
and also
he's been doing great.
Yeah, and also said I didn't think he can put up the numbers that he did last year, but
it's early, but he's proving it.
He's proving it.
And that's my 30 seconds.
Wow, we're doing 30 seconds and with the little sound. Junior, Michkov benched back-to-back games by Torts, comes in today, 1 goal, 1 assist.
Yeah, I don't know. I was a bit shocked, but given the fact that it was just 1 game, I thought it was okay. But back-to-back games for one of your best point scorers, I found that a little bit. I almost felt like Torts was just trying to say, I'm the boss here type of thing, But anyways, great. Michkov is exactly who we thought he is, and this is playing out the way we thought it would be. Torts would give him a hard time to get the Calder. Boom! Huh?
4 seconds to spare. I love it.
Nick, NCAA has granted approval for Division I hockey athletes to option to CHL. CHL players are now approved to play in the NCAA hockey. How big of a news is this?
Okay, so if you think about this is probably going to be longer than 30 seconds, guys, but if you think about this, imagine the scholarships that are being given by NCAA schools right now, and the development program over there is great. Their college hockey program is just great. The names that are coming out of NCAA are better, or I would say better than what's happening in the CHL right now. And I think as a developmental stage, it's absolutely great that these players are now going to have a chance to go and play there. I think it hurts the CHL, but then again, you'll see it both ways, right? You have to maintain a certain grade point average to be in an NCAA hockey team. In the CHL, you don't necessarily have that, right?
Well, look, the players that lose their jobs to the CHL players might make their way to the CHL. Doesn't mean they're bad players. Maybe that's the better development path for them.
And the CHL, the owners in the CHL are worried that some players are going to be going. They're going to be losing players. The players in NCAA are worried that people are going to leave and go to the CHL because it's not as much academics, right? So it just goes to show that it's going to be fun to see how the landscape plays out for us in the sense of people coming through the juniors.
Junior, Besser, out indefinitely.
Yikes. That's a tough blow. I think it's day to day or week to week with an upper body injury. They called up Lakari Mackey, so I'm curious to see how that plays out for Vancouver. According to Daily Faceoff, he's on the line with Miller and Suter. So that's a nice opportunity. They might put Garland up there depending on how that works out. So I would look for those two names to be taking Besser's spot. But Garland probably gets a spot on the power play.
This one has no name because we're just going to give
And we're doing it together, I think. No. Right? Is that what you want to do?
Manta.
No, I
you
just
could
didn't
take
have
it.
time to write the name. But, I mean, you
No,
know how to
Nick.
follow like a path?
Okay, Nick, what can you tell me about Manta, who's not fantasy related? No
He
one
is
has
actually
them on the
fantasy
fantasy team. He's done for the season after getting surgery on his ACL.
So, contrary to what you might believe, because I'm sure you looked it up before asking the question, but Ashley Matha was actually producing on a Detroit Red Wings team, and I think he was playing
He's with the
middle six.
He's not. He wasn't with the Red Wings now. He's with the
Oh,
Flames.
I'm sorry, with the Flames, but he was
but
playing middle six.
But I'm the one who doesn't do the research.
Right. So
Shut up.
you're absolutely right.
Nick, I think I'm going to side with Vince on this. There's no way Manta should have been fantasy relevant this
He
year.
is. But what are you saying? He is fantasy relevant.
Okay.
He has been this year. Hold on, be quiet.
So while you look at
Nick,
that,
you're probably going to put up stats of like 6 points in 12 games.
yeah,
He was a 1.77 points per game rate in our Lama League, which only counts.
That's a pretty good rate.
It's actually very,
But
very
how many
legit.
games did he play?
played 2 games and scored 1 goal.
He played 13 games and he had 7 points.
Yeah.
4 goals, 3 assists.
Okay.
It's still fantasy relevant.
Stop it, Junior.
Do you own him by any chance in the Llama?
Well, he's on LTIR now, so I don't. I was just going to mention that if you do own him, you might want to look at somewhere else. But
Junior.
Coronado has been really picking it
Yeah.
up on the Flames.
Drysdale, the loose leaves,
He's a
king-
shit player.
the king of loose leaf papers,
Nick's pissed off now. We pissed him off.
the king of loose leaf papers. He goes on IR again. Like,
Yeah, he's
what's-
papier mâché now. I mean, I always liked York ahead of Drysdale even going into the season.
Yeah.
But there's nothing else to say.
Like,
I mean,
has-
the dream's over. For
has-
me, the dream's over.
Has the hype train like departed the station for Drysdale?
It's unfortunate.
It's
yeah.
unfortunate.
It's unfortunate. Like a lot of people had a lot of.
I hope he
expectations.
turns it around, though. There's still time. He's still
Look,
very young.
He could still become like a middle of the pack player, I guess. But we're not talking about those.
I feel like he's turning into the Adam Bofquist.
I feel he needs to get things together and he can become a Gottisberg, which is a
perhaps.
playoff spot.
Yeah, I think you own him, and you're wishing on colors and dreams.
No,
Move on.
Vince is trying to sell high here.
I don't have Drysdale, so we're good. Okay.
You have him in our league.
Yeah, but I'm going to drop him today.
Oops, sneak peek.
Brian Wild states there is no rebuild that is complete in the first 2 years of existence. Compares Ottawa, Buffalo, Detroit, who have been without playoffs for a decade. Nick, you tell me what this is all about.
So
Actually, it goes hand in hand with what we're going to talk about later.
it
Just
does
quote.
actually. Yeah, it does. I think Brian was a little bit apologetic, obviously, because this year has not been going well for Montreal, and a lot of Habs fans are starting to, raise a little bit of a ruckus. Like, we need to be playing better. We need to be. We were told that we want to be in the mix, but right now we're last in the league. Right?
This is the same Brian Wild who said he thought that Montreal were making the playoffs ahead of all the other teams.
I don't know about that,
I
but
don't remember, but he was high on them competing for a playoff spot. Yeah.
yeah. So what ends up happening here is a little bit what we spoke about before, right? The Habs have the most man games lost every single season, it seems, year after year, and as long as that doesn't change,
When
it's not gonna be-
when we did our predictions for Montreal, what was the first thing we all said?
yeah, they have to stay healthy.
Line in particular, and
Well, you lost Line A right away, but then also the fact that you have the youngest D core in the NHL already, and you're looking to possibly trade David Savard on top of it. So I think you're starting to realize that it takes time. It's going to take time. Now, I think Brian's a little bit... he's looking at it positively, saying that it's only 2 years that the rebuild has started.
Because the fans are losing patience.
Right. And
the media.
I think he's right in the sense that it's going to be at least 3 more years before we start competing higher up, you know. So, and that's if everything falls into place. Guys, at the end of the day, you have a Higgins, you have some players coming that in this draft that might actually help us. So I wouldn't win a lottery again.
The one thing he did state is all those teams at some point showed progression, and halfway through their rebuild they regressed. When everyone thought that was the next step to take, they didn't take it and they regressed. I forget. I don't know the expression, but it's part of the process. Like there's you gotta eat your crumbs. All right, bye.
And
Eat your crumbs.
That was the odd man
Eat your
rush.
crumbs.
We promise you next time we will keep every segment at 30 seconds or less.
No, we don't.
I don't like when
Nobody
Vince
promised that.
hosts.
Nobody promised that.
Odd Man Rush.
Yes. All right. Moving on to the rumblings. First and foremost, shall we update the listeners on the stats of our
I have it right here,
fantasy
actually.
league?
Yeah,
Vince,
I have it.
I'll give you this one. Okay?
All right, so in last place is Team Nick with 245 points. Team Junior is in second with 298, and I seem to be up there with 335 points.
So, what episode was this? That when we did the
the
draft?
new year was the first. It was the
52,
first,
right?
episode 52.
Yeah. Don't listen to that one.
Well, okay. To just remind everybody, what we did is we took these flashcards
It was all RNG.
and we randomly each picked one at a time, and we had to pick a player from each team randomly, of course. And to fill out our teams, we remixed the pile, and that's how we came up with our players. Once we had 2 players from one team, it was they were officially out of the running. Then we had waiver wire pickups that we said we could do once a week, and we had done a few. I think we each did one.
One of our listeners actually suggested Hard Day's Night
Yep.
that our waiver pickups for the league should be done live on air, and it should maintain that RNG randomness.
And that's exactly what we're going to apply as of today. So I believe we're each dropping a player today. Seeing as Nick is in last place, he will go first. And the rules are simple. There can never be 2 players from the same team in our league.
There can't be a third player from the same team.
Yeah,
You could have
that's
2.
the same thing as more than 2.
You said
Nick's
one, I heard.
way was just simpler to say, but go ahead.
So what did you say?
It's okay. It doesn't matter what I say.
Basically,
I'm
combined
getting ripped today. I don't
between
know.
the 3 teams, you can't have more than 2 players from the same
I'm
team.
picking Anthony Mantha.
For example, Nick has Matthews and Marner still in last place. So there cannot be a third Maple Leafs player unless one is dropped.
It's
All
a
right,
very long
Nick,
explanation.
let's start.
Did you mix the cards?
Let's
Because they're
start.
face up here.
They're right here. Hold on.
All right, so
I'm going to mix them.
I'm going to tell you who I'm dropping, guys, and it's not because he's not doing well. He's actually doing very well, but I'm 90 points behind first place, which is the guy to my right over here. So I need some sort of miracle to actually catch up, and I'm hoping I get that miracle by dropping Troy Terry. Troy Terry has 14 games played, 5 goals, 6 assists.
Not bad.
Not bad. So I'm going to be submitting that drop, and I'm going to be picking up a player that is going to be completely random according to what I pick here. So,
You want to give the listeners an idea of which teams are not in that pile?
No,
Okay.
Jesus Christ, you're going to spend all day on this.
All right, here we go.
Florida.
The Florida Panthers. Wow,
that's
you
not
caught a little
bad.
break.
You think so?
Yeah, there's Kachuk.
Barkov.
Kachuk.
Kachuk,
Kachuk.
Barkov. Yeah.
Because Vince dropped Kachuk for Reinhardt, right? When Kachuk was injured.
How many Kachucks does it take to... yeah.
To Chuck.
Do you have Brady?
Chuck Wood.
No.
Do I have Brady? No, I don't have. That would be cool, though, if I had Brady. All right, so I'm just moving on to the Florida team here and see who I could pick. And I'm just going to sort. Oh my God, Reinhardt's killing it this year. He was tied with Caufield for him and 3 other players. I think all had like 11 goals to start the day today. So here we're just gonna go like this.
I mean, Nick, it's not really that complicated. You have to go Sam Bennett here.
Sam Bennett actually has 9 goals, 6 assists in the season, 15 points in 15 games. That's not something I'm used to for Sam Bennett. But I'm gonna go Matthew Tkachuk. I'm just gonna grab Matthew Tkachuk here. I'm not gonna overcomplicate.
All right,
He
so
only played
Matthew
10
Tkachuk
games.
is the play here. So the Florida Panthers are officially out of the pile for Vince and I.
So would you say Tkachuk is an upgrade on Terry?
Yeah, for sure.
I'll let you mix this. And I am dropping Rutger McGroarty as my rookie and hoping I catch a team that has a rookie in the NHL at this point. So they go back in the pile. I do have the opportunity to select Pittsburgh yet again. And,
I hope he picks Pittsburgh.
I have a feeling this is going to go really, really bad. So,
Okay,
but it can get worse than what it
I'm
is.
showing it.
All right.
Close
So
his eyes.
here we go.
Yeah, close your eyes. I don't want you picking the color.
Yeah.
You're memorizing the color schemes.
Well, you didn't
You
close your eyes.
eyes.
You. All right, here we go.
Okay. And who does he
Who the-
pick?
What's the color? Orange. Oh, this can't be good. All right, here we go. Oh, the Carolina
Carolina
Hurricanes. The first. Oh, I have 2 cards here, guys, but
It's Carolina.
it's going to be
Carolina's
Carolina.
gonna be
What
Carolina.
could have been? Oh, I was like Harry Mackey. No. All right.
Carolina. Who are rookies in Carolina forward?
Oh, that's right. You can't pick anybody you want. It's got to
gotta
be
be
a
a
rookie.
rookie.
It's gotta be
It
a
doesn't have to
rookie.
be a forward.
No,
It
exactly.
could be.
So the first name that came to mind, I think, was Blake.
Oh,
Jackson
yeah.
Blake.
Blake or Nadeau. I think they were in the NHL.
Let's
So I'm
check.
going to take a look here while you guys discuss who.
No, but,
So who did you drop again?
I am dropping Rutger
Rutger
McGroarty.
McGroarty. That's right. So you're dropping your rookie, and you need to find another rookie.
the spoiled one, right?
yeah, that's the
yeah.
one that you love. No, isn't he your favorite person in the world?
Can't wait to get straight to Montreal.
Oh boy.
Okay, so
Oh boy. So you're right. Jackson Blake is considered a rookie on that team, and I would add that there are no other real rookies playing in the NHL right now on Carolina.
No, I think you don't have much.
no, because
options.
Nadeau, right? He did
sent
not
back.
make the team. Yeah, he got sent down before the season started.
Well, at least you picked somebody that's playing.
So yeah, I guess I'm gonna go with Jackson Blake here. I'm just gonna go see quickly before Vince selects who he's on a line with.
4th line. All right.
4th line with Jack Drury and Tyson Jones. That's better than the AHL. I'll take it.
All right, so we're dropping Nick's favorite player over here, Jamie Drysdale.
Anthony Matha?
Yeah. And we're picking up a defenseman, obviously. So which
From the Nashville Predators. Come on.
Vancouver would be nice.
Oh my God! Why are we even doing this league?
This league
Just
sucks.
quit this fucking
league
league. Oh
sucks.
shit! I just swore. Wow, this is fucking
We
brutal.
can beep it out, right?
Yeah, no, we're just gonna make this. This is.
Why do we like?
I don't know.
The
Tell
guys-
the listener to stop giving us these ideas. This is
The guy's luck continues, ladies and gentlemen. This man has a horseshoe
Up his
shoved so
wazoo.
far up his wazoo, it's coming out of his mouth.
So just to let listeners know
No, we don't want. They don't want to
No,
know.
they don't wanna know
It's
anything.
over. Just can we move on?
that basically Quinn Hughes was not chosen in our pool, and I will be changing. It's a tough trade to make, but I'll take Quinn Hughes over Jamie Drysdale. I think this will be the last waiver pickup I will ever do in this league from now on.
Is there even a point of us doing this?
I don't know.
All right, let's move on to the next segment, please.
that stakes.
This just ruined the episode for me.
Yeah, I think the episode was
I am
crap to begin
completely
with.
gutted. This was the only hope we had to make a comeback, and he just made his team stronger by like 2 points a game.
Yeah, I blame you.
You blame me. I think he remember. Did you make him close his eyes?
I don't
Yes,
know.
you can even look at the video if you want.
This is a load of crap, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Well, that does it for the waiver wire pickups. Junior drops Rutger McGroarty, picks up Jackson Blake of the Carolina Hurricanes. Nick drops Troy Terry
picks up
and
Matthew Tkachuk.
picks up Matthew Tkachuk of the Florida Panthers. And Vince goes to hell. All right. So, moving on to the rumbling.
Talking about real. Oh no, we're not even doing the real waiver wires yet.
We're still
doing that
doing
next
the-
segment.
yeah.
So Go ahead. Sorry.
You know what? We should do that now. Waiver wire. Let's just do it.
Yeah,
Okay, go.
let's do it. Let's do it. It makes sense. It's a nice transition.
Yeah. So last week, before we were keeping track, right? Because as of this week, we're each going to select one and
We're
keep
writing it on
track.
the board.
Let's not. So last week we had Alexei Protas, who a goal and 1 assist in 3 games. I think that was pretty, and 4 games. I think that was fair. I think that's good.
For a waiver
That's
wire
win.
guy, 2 points in 4 games. I mean, it's not the greatest, but you'll take it.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Pavel Dorofeyev, 2 goals in 3 games. I think that's a win.
That's a win.
That's definitely
That's a win for us. Yeah.
I know a listener from Nevada is very happy right now. And lastly, we had said Sorelli or Paul, whichever would take Braden Point's place on the top line.
And they both failed.
And they both failed with 1 assist
miserably.
each in 3 games.
1
And,
assist each.
And neither of them took his spot on PP1, which was even worse.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was
I would give ourselves a
pass.
barely. I would give us a
60%.
barely pass. Yeah, 60% for this one. Hopefully, our waiver wire pickups for this week are going to be much
Just
better.
a little, at least.
So this time, though, we're actually keeping track of the score, and we're going to have a score at the end of the season so that you listeners know who to disregard their opinion completely and who to actually listen to at the end of the season. So we'll start with you, Junior, because you're the host of this podcast or this
This segment?
segment.
All right, so I decided to go with, let me just see something here. Connor Garland of the Vancouver Canucks. A lot of it had to do with Besser being injured. Prior to calling up Lekari-Maki, he was on the top line with JT Miller. But he's now on a line with Pedersen, who seems to be slightly and very, very slowly turning it around. The reason I like Connor Garland is he ended last year with 18 points in 18 games. Also on a line with Pedersen, playing 16 minutes a game. He's carried that over so far this year with 10 points in 13 games, 3 minutes of power play time, 18 minutes of time on ice. And that was before Besser's injury. So I really like Connor Garland in this spot. If Connor Garland by chance is taken in your league, they've recently called up Lekari-Maki. That could be an option as well. But I'm sticking with Connor Garland here. I'm just going to go see percentage all rostered. I think it was 40%. But I'll double check while you guys move on.
I went for a team that's getting bitten by the injury bug. Cal Palmieri for the Islanders with Barzal out of the lineup. They already don't score very much. I mean, right now, daily faceoff has Pajot as their number 1 winger.
Taking Barzal's spot.
Yeah, and on the power play, but I feel Cal Palmieri could easily take that position. So I'll go with Cal Palmieri. He's had a solid start to the season. He's 39% owned, if I'm not mistaken. So my pick is Cal Palmieri.
You know who else has had a pretty decent season on that team?
Tell me.
Tsiplikov.
Yes.
Yep.
Where remember we said that you're like, why are we talking about KHL players? It's actually doing not bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Not bad.
The 2 KHL players are doing not bad this year.
Yeah.
Tsipkov and Dorofeyev.
Dorofeyev was there
Tsiplikov.
last year.
Bishkov.
No, but
Technically.
they didn't play. He came from the KHL, Dorofeyev.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, a while ago.
I don't even know for sure.
Yeah. So you just think he's Russian, so he's from there. My waiver wire pickup, and I picked last in this order because next week we're going to be switching up the orders every week, was Jack Roslovich. And Jack Roslovich is only 36% owned in Fantrax, but he's playing top line in Carolina. And by the way, Carolina is buzzing.
Wait till Jackson Blake takes his spot.
Don't listen to this, people. So 9 goals, 1 assist in 13 games played. So 10 points in 13 games. He's playing. He has a shooting percentage of 25%. So let's not kid ourselves. It's a little bit higher than it should be. He's getting more points, more goals than he should have. But he's playing second PP, second power play unit on Carolina. And as long as he keeps getting deployment on the top line, I don't see how this is not a great waiver pickup.
Yeah.
So that's going to be my waiver pickup for this week. Hopefully, we'll see at the end of the week, and we'll count who wins the week and give that person 1 point. Or do we give it for
We'll just calculate wins and losses, I guess, or push.
Wins and losses. Okay.
wins and losses. So
Wins, losses, pushes.
So
Well,
Chen-
the push will be, it's not a win or a loss, so that's all.
Thank you for explaining what a push is. that was riveting
oh
stuff.
my god! And to end this
So-
segment,
Oh,
we're ending this segment
Yeah,
now.
Junior selected.
he's the coach.
He's the coach.
He's the boss.
He's the coach. Okay,
He's
we're on
he's the host
fire
of
here
it.
tonight. All right. So Junior, as his waiver wire pickup, selects Connor Garland, 42% rostered from the Vancouver Canucks. Nick, you went last. So Vince, you select Kyle Palmieri of the New York Islanders, and Nick selects Jack Roslovic of the Carolina Hurricanes.
Take warning.
All right. Producer, are you ready? We are moving on to the rumblings. And in today's rumblings, we will talk about a listener. Actually, you know what? I'm not sure if he's a listener, but he will be as of now because we will shout him out. Who commented on our little 30-second clip on TikTok about Cole Caufield and how Vince said we don't see him being an 82-point player. And I think, Nick, I'm going to speak for all of us when I say we kind of all agreed, right?
Right. We didn't say we don't think he's a point per game player necessarily.
But we still do see him as a potential 40-goal scorer.
Correct.
But that doesn't mean he'll be an 82-point player. Okay, so Vince, before you retaliate, if you will, I will read the
No
comments.
retaliation, there's just a discussion.
I will read the comments of at y'all are bugging on TikTok. Please feel free to give him a follow. He replied as follows.
Really throwing flowers at this listener, right?
Yeah, don't tap into this pod, laughing face. Where's your explanation? He's proven to be potentially a 30 and 30 guy at age 21 and 22. Why can't he go 45 and 40 or so on a better team in 3-4 years? You guys don't know puck. Where we replied, last year was an anomaly. 1 year does not prove anything. He's trending more towards 40 goals, 25 or 30 assists in his prime, give or take. We'll give an yes. And then I just told him to listen to the next episode where we would have this discussion. He then replied, anomaly based on what? You cannot just say things and it means you're right. 40 goal pace this season on a bad team, plus learn how to play make without real finishers. I have stats. You don't. He put up almost 30 assists on a top 5 worst team. Oh, wow. In the league without finishers.
So
Why
speaking
can't
English isn't his his primary
Why
thing.
can't he add 10 to that when he has Demidov with 40 goal potential? A lot to
so-
take in here, so Vince, I'll let you start to break it
listen.
down a little bit.
The beauty about all this is that everybody can have their opinion, and not everybody has to agree with their opinions. The problem is when he says, show me your proof or whatever. My problem is, where's his proof that Caufield is a 40 goal scorer and 45 assist guy? He's 24 years old. He's going to be 24. He's played 5 seasons in the NHL. And this is not me making up stats. This is Frozen Tools, who has projections of the total points that they had every season. First season, projected game pace points, 41 points. Second, 53. Third, 64. Last year, the only season he played 82 games, 65 points. This year, on pace, points, on pace, 67. How in the world can this listener say, he's an 82, he's a 40-45 guy? There's no proof in the world that he's a 40-45 guy. How can he just assume, oh yeah, Demidov is going to play with Suzuki and Caufield all season next year? How can he assume that Demidov will even be a hit? We're hoping. Listen, we're all Habs fan. We're hoping that. My take was, stop trying to believe that Caufield is a point per game player and accept and hope he becomes the goal scorer he was meant to be. In his draft year, no scout ever said this player is a point per game player. They said he is a goal scorer. He has a natural act to score goals. Never did anybody say this guy is going to be an 82 point. If they did, he wouldn't have been drafted 16th overall with Montreal. He would have gone higher, no matter his size. So, to me, this is a fanboy. And a fanboy, I'm not saying I'm just fanboy that he really likes Caufield, and he really wants to believe that Caufield is going to be that superstar 80-point play. He won't. He's going to be you know how Caufield's going to be a superstar? If he could hit 40 goals every year for Montreal.
Oh, that's the first person that would do it since Stéphane Richer.
Like Nick, I put Caufield in the Pacioretty phase where Pacioretty was a constant 30 goal scorer. We need Caufield to be in that 40 goal scorer.
Okay, so here's one thing I'll say. I think he hits 40 this year because he started off so hot. So I think he hits 40 goals this year. But guys, he's also on a 30% shooting percentage. That's not sustainable. You have goal scorers out there that have shooting percentages of 16%, and you're saying, wow, that's amazing, right? Here we're talking about a 30% shooting percentage. So I don't think that's sustainable. I still think he hits 40 this year.
Well, it's 30% shooting percentage, and he's on pace for 62 goals. That's why you're saying it's unsustainable, because no one will foresee Caufield scoring 62 goals.
Sorry, it's not Austin Matthews, right? And even Austin didn't get that far, right? Like, so anyways, I love Caufield. I'm a fan of Caufield. I'm a fan of the Montreal Canadiens. I think Caufield is a very, very good player, top line potential player. But I don't see point per game necessarily. Maybe he hits it once, but I don't think consistently he will. Regardless if Demidov comes in, first of all, Slavkovsky is already proving that, especially today's game, that he could set up, he could score. Like, I don't know, is it bad that he's playing with Slavkovsky and you're waiting for Demidov to come save the world? Like, I don't know.
So
I just find it a little bit odd that we're expecting 82 points necessarily. He might hit it.
So this is my point to one of his comments is wait till Demidov comes. Even if Demidov is who we think he's going to be. Okay? Caufield has been playing with a point per game player almost his entire career. Suzuki has been a 70-point player since his time with Caufield. Since, given a good sample size. So Demidov, when he comes, he's taking away points. The Canadiens are not just going to add 82 points of Demidov and not take away from anybody. That's not how this works. He'll add to guys like Doc, maybe, if he plays with Doc. Or, you know what I mean? Caufield is already playing with an 82-point player. It's not because you're adding another 82-point player that, first of all, it's going to mesh and that he's going to add 40 points to you automatically. That's not how this works. So, and in terms of stats, in his first 10 games in the league, when he came out of college, 4 goals, 1 assist. So you already saw a little bit of very small sample size, but that he was more of a goal scorer than an assist guy. I think what happened last year was that the year he had coming off shoulder surgery, where he probably had to change his game a little bit because of what he couldn't do based off his rehabilitation, because shoulders and knees, it takes longer to really regain your form 100%. And he did so the right way and managed to put up 37 assists and 28 goals in 82 games. But if you look at his history, the year before that was 26 goals, 10 assists. He always doubles his goals and his assists. He had 23 and 20 the year before. Okay. This year, so he's showing more often than not that he's more of a goal scorer than a complete goals and assist guy. I mean, look, he's on pace. He wants to say he's on pace for X amount of goals, but he's also only on pace for 5 assists.
but
so you know, where's the in between with that? So I think it's just
Order in the court.
Yeah, order in the court. For me, I see it very hard to see him at a point per game player.
Look,
his career best might be 70, 75 points, you know?
Look, we're projecting. And projecting, there's always some risk when you're projecting, right? When you're projecting, you could be wrong. And if you're wrong,
of course,
I'll eat the crow and I'll be happy about it because I'm a Habs fan.
Exactly. It's just being realistic.
I just don't see it right now. And maybe this listener sees it, and good for him. You know, I mean, if I come to your job and tell your fans don't listen to the podcast, I think I would be a little bit don't listen to his podcast or his commentary. I think that's a little bit excessive, but keyboard warriors, mom spaghetti in the basement, wearing white t-shirts, and
he wasn't all that menacing or anything. A bit rude, but
rude.
At the end of the day, we'll take it because it creates discussion. As long as it's not personal, we'll take it. And we'll discuss it. And hopefully you're a new listener. Y'all are bugging. So thank you for your comments.
You wanted stats? We give you stats.
We strongly disagree, and but if we're wrong, we'll eat the crow and we'll be ecstatic because we're all Habs fans here. So
listen,
that does it for me, guys.
You're always going to get when you put yourself out there on a podcast. You're always going to get either trolls on Twitter or people that disagree with you, and you can't make everybody happy. And unfortunately, this listener wasn't happy. I hope the rest of you are, because we're still getting our follows, we're still getting our likes, and that's all I really care about.
Be happy with 40 goals. Be happy with 40 goals. If he could score 40 goals for the rest of his career, from today to the rest of his career, the Habs are on the right track.
So I'd rather have him
40
scoring
goals
40 goals
than 30 goals and 34,
Look,
50 assists.
the mentality he has is if Caufield scores 40 goals and Demidov comes, he's going to score 80. Right? That doesn't make sense.
He's saying that he needs to play with better players, but you're right, though. Suzuki is he was 5 points shy of 82 points.
Suzuki got 4 points today and 7 goals. Caufield got 2 goals. Like, he's playing with the best player Montreal has.
Currently, yeah.
And he's still on pace for 60.
He was on the second line today, Caufield. He wasn't playing with...
when you hook and...
that's why he was a -2.
But he scored 2 goals.
No, but
I'll take that. I'll take minus whatever.
I'll take goals from Caufield any day.
All right, guys.
But that does it.
Order in the court.
For the rumblings and in this particular challenge, we disagree with the listener. Moving on to...
Our topic of a conversation today will be a little bit of Brian Wild's comments, a little bit of... Actually, this is something that listeners have actually asked us before. And I think it's very interesting because we get to a point in our dynasty leagues, and this is specific to dynasty. We get to a point in our dynasty leagues where we need to know whether or not it's time to start the rebuild. And I was listening on TSN 690 radio station here in Montreal. The comments that were taken a bit out of context by the GM of the Predators, Barry
Trotz.
And Darren Dreger ended up saying on his radio hit that, they were taken out of context. He didn't really mean that he's going to stop everything and start a rebuild now that he just got Stamkos, Marchessault, Saro signed to these long-term deals. But I think what Barry Trotz was saying is that, things need to change. There needs to be some sort of change happening in Nashville for them to start producing again. And it comes to our leagues a little bit, right? Where we have some teams that, for example, Jamie in Lama, was somebody that always finished top 3, and now he's near the bottom. Is it time for him to rebuild? How does he know it's time to rebuild? What are the signs? What are the triggers that you need to look for? And that's what I wanted to kind of talk with you guys today, because I think it's an interesting discussion, and it's a very hard discussion because it's going to be different for every team. But what Vince would... You're rebuilding in how many leagues now?
One league is an expansion, but
that's right. Yeah,
the other league I'm rebuilding, and this is why the first thing you have to do is you have to put your pride aside, because some people have so much pride that they're like, I can fix this. My threshold in LPHL, which is the league we're all in, when I started to rebuild, is when I had mortgaged almost all my draft picks for 2 years. The first years I was there, I was top 3. I was close. But that final year, I had remortgaged almost all my draft picks and realizing I wasn't even close to the top 4. Mm. So then I started looking at my players and I'm like, I need to do something. So then you ask yourself, what do I do? Do I retool or do I rebuild? You look at your roster. I looked at my roster and my players were too old to retool, meaning my main guys were all close to 30, just over 30, or 29 years old. To me, that's very difficult to retool. Because when players hit 30, usually that's when they slow down or they stay stagnant. And I couldn't have players that stayed stagnant. I need players on the up. And I didn't have enough of those players. And then you have to make tough decisions. Now, like I said, I had remortgaged all my draft picks. So in one league, that year, I was second to last. I finished and I didn't have my first.
Mm.
It was in the Demidov.
That hurts.
In the Celebrini Demidov.
That
draft.
hurts.
So that is when I said...
I did that in Fraps this year, by the way.
Yeah, so that's when I said, okay. And the person who I basically gave up Evan Bouchard to get back my first so I could draft Demidov. You know, and everybody's like, I'm like, yes, Evan Bouchard was a young defenseman, but to me, I always prioritize forwards over defensemen for me. And what people were saying about Demidov, and hopefully he can become the next Kucherov or whatever. But it's the biggest thing is just to accept, put your pride aside and accept this is the year. And then once you do that, the second question is, am I retooling or am I fully rebuilding? If you're fully rebuilding, my friends, you need to be patient. You need to plan yourself very carefully. And especially in leagues where you could tank, you need to plan when, like an example, I didn't think this year's draft class, the upcoming draft class was as strong as last year's draft class. So I gave up, I had the second overall pick, which was Demidov, and then I gave up 2 first round picks of next year to
This
get
upcoming year.
the Higgins draft, to get the third overall pick, which I picked Lindstrom in, because I thought that Lindstrom would have been first overall in this year's draft if he was there. Unfortunately, with his injury now, it doesn't look as good. But at the end of the day, you have to accept the fact that your run is over, and then rebuild. And when I say rebuild, guys, you're gonna draft like 50 players, and only maybe 10, 11 are really gonna hit. And that's where it gets like I'm looking at some of the players I drafted, and you go, because you're rebuilding, right? You're not looking at your league, you're looking at their stats and their juniors and all that, or the HL. And some of the players I drafted, I'm like, God damn it, I thought they were gonna be better than this. So it's tough. It's a tough thing to do, but if you do it properly, it's huge in the long run.
All right, so I'll ask you, Junior, because I want to see, have you had any experience with rebuilding? Have you ever decided that it's time?
I have not. I think I would struggle to rebuild. I would have a hard time, but I think I'm able to tell myself this is the time. In one experience, I think you have to find the sweet spot. The sweet spot where your stars are at a certain age but they're still producing that you can get a haul, and at the same time, so you don't want to wait till your stars are worth nothing, because then for me your rebuild takes too long.
That's your fear. That's the fear.
That's the fear. So and I'll use again, I got maybe lucky, but I'll use Huberdeau. I didn't think Huberdeau would ever be a 100-point player. So after his 115-point season, I said that's the year to get rid of him, and I got a haul for him, and that's it. So I think I have a good feel for that. I'm not always going to get it right, but I think you have to try to find that sweet spot where your players are still worth enough to give you a kickstart on your rebuild by trading them away to contenders. And don't forget, the contenders, they pick later on in the draft. And another warning sign is if you're giving up assets just to stay in the hunt for a championship, as opposed to giving up assets to try to win. Like, staying in the hunt and believing you can win are two different things. Because then you're saying, am I finishing third or am I finishing first? So you really need to have a feel for your team and how far your team can go, even with the acquisitions you're going to make.
So I'm going to agree with both of you to some degree. I think my experience in the Fraps and Rigs Dynasty League is exactly what I would say was the trigger warning. It's what happened that made me realize, oh my God, I need to rebuild. And that's where I had a lot of great players, like the Marchands, I had a couple of young guys, but it was mostly guys that were older, the Kopitars and so on and so forth. So I realized that I was always finishing fourth, and my guys were all in their 30s already. And I'm like, I need to do something. And because I kept mortgaging the future by getting rid of exactly what you just said, you get rid of your first to try to stay in the hunt. You do it 1 year. Okay, I got rid of my second to stay in the hunt. Oh, I did it another year, right? And all of a sudden you realize that even though you're doing these moves, you're actually not moving up the standings anymore. So for me, it was a zero-sum game. And what do I mean by zero-sum game? It means that even though I didn't have my first, I had to cut the bleeding now. I'm going to forget the fact that I don't have my first, and I'm just going to start accumulating assets. And sadly to say, a lot of the assets that I started accumulating were because they were much older players that I'm giving up. People weren't giving me their top first-round picks. Mm-hmm. So I had to try to target players that I thought had some upside, but maybe aren't the grade A prospects that I really wanted to start a rebuild. And I finished second to last, and I didn't have my first, so I lost Demidov. But I gained guys like Matichuk, I gained guys like Korchinski, I gained guys like Gabe Perreault, Lekari Maki, and started my rebuild that way. In my second round, I grabbed a Yakimchuk, just trying to build the team from zero to nothing. A lot of people had given up on Eklund at the time. I had traded one of my players for Eklund, and he looks like he might actually pan out to be a fantasy producer. All this to say that when you decide, though, that it's time to rebuild, get ready to sit on the sidelines for 3 to 4 years easily, unless you get really lucky.
But even if you get really lucky, it still takes...
some of these dynasty leagues, right, are like 16 players that start, or 25
12
players.
12 teams deep.
12 teams deep, So it takes time.
Yeah, I got Bedard in...
So actually, it's funny you mentioned that. That was going to be my next point or question, is the quality of the top players in the draft that year that you're contemplating could make your decision easier. If it's the Gavin McKenna year and you're contemplating and it happens to be the Gavin McKenna year and you're like, well, maybe this is the year to do it. Or at least, look, it doesn't mean you're going to get him, but it's a good draft.
So
at least the stars at the beginning there should be good. I think.
Funny you mentioned that. Gavin McKenna, in his 19 games so far this season, has 37 points. Yeah. He's still not eligible to be drafted this year. It's only next year.
I can't wait for the World Juniors.
So I started my rebuild with McKenna in mind, and maybe a Higgins or whatever, knowing that that's my target, right? So I literally put my starting lineup, because my league allows it, is all green flags. I want 0 points. I don't want any points on my team. And I will get rid of somebody that's producing, which I got rid of Gustafsson, who was actually producing on my team, because I needed Akira Schmid and Scott Morrow, just because I need less points, So I didn't target Gustafsson as somebody that's going to be on my team in 3-4 years when I finish rebuilding. So, it's a fun discussion. It's not an easy thing to think of, but it's important to realize that when you see you're not moving up anymore in the standings and you have no help coming from your minors, it might be time.
And you can't...
And the trades dry up, right? Nobody wants to trade for 30-year-olds.
You can't... But that's what you can't overestimate the value of your players. Meaning, if you're tanking and teams know you're tanking, and you have a Crosby on your team, or let's say an Ovechkin, you can't expect to get the best elite prospect from the other guy for Ovechkin. You gotta be considerate with yourself and say, you know what, a second round pick would still help me, because a second round pick is still a
Jamie is
Jamie, still a top 20.
His ears are burning, Jamie.
No,
I have two points to add to that. So one, speaking of the draft years, we spoke of like a Gavin McKenna draft year, right? It makes it easier, but don't get fooled by drafts that are not deep, because you're drafting in the should be drafting the top 3 if you're tanking. Macklin Celebrini is not a bad guy to have, even though that draft wasn't perhaps the deepest.
Well, actually, this
Higgins
year,
is not a bad guy. Schaefer is not a bad guy to have.
that's right. There's at least 4 or 5 guys in this draft that are gonna be star players in the NHL.
listen, off the top of my head, I can think of maybe one draft where, I mean, the top 5 players were
Yeah, it's the Galchenyuk draft.
Galchenyuk and Yakupov draft. But this is also key. Do your homework.
Yeah.
If you're rebuilding, you shouldn't care about what's happening in the NHL. You should be caring what's happening in the juniors. You should be watching the World Juniors, see who stands out in the World Juniors. Keep track of players who are playing in the NCAA, CHL, Russia. Some players playing KHL. And keep up with those players and listen to experts, see what the experts are saying.
Okay, you guys both have experience in rebuilding. I don't, so I'm going to hand you this question. Based off your experience, the return on the players you are offloading is better at the deadline more often than not, or before, or when they're hot? Like, what's your strategy in that sense? When
Okay.
you get the best offer, or are you play the patient game to the deadline where people might be more
here's
desperate?
what I'll say. Look at your league and look when the trading gets hot, because you might wait for deadline day and the teams might already be set in their waivers or set in their orders or set in their salary cap, and they don't want to make a trade on deadline day. And that's happened to me, where I waited for deadline day for the best deal, but they had already done their blitz of trading 3 weeks before. So don't assume that just because it's trade deadline day, like real NHL, you see a lot of movement. Don't assume that your fantasy league is going to have movement on that day. Whenever you see that the iron is hot, you go for it. And the other thing is the point you made before is you're waiting for the best deal. Can you afford to wait for the best deal? Right? Like, do you have, like in Lama, we have people that are expiring contracts, right? So you might lose this guy for nothing if you don't take a deal. Always have that in the back of your mind.
The problem with going to trade deadline is you're cutting your customers in practically 3/4, because at trade deadline you usually have maybe the first place team usually either has nothing to give you or doesn't need your players, and then the rest of them. So you're cutting your clientele almost in 3/4. Before that, you still have some clientele, and all you need is for one person to make a trade and then another person saying, oh shit, he's improving his team, I need to improve my team. And that's how the rolling gets done. In every league, there's always those 3 weeks where there's just trade after trade after trade, because everybody's trying to outcompete themselves. So
It happens in flurries.
yeah, exactly. So
Marc-Andre Fleury.
Guys, that was a good topic of discussion. I think we're going to get some good feedback with that.
Well, regardless, please do feedback. Give us our likes, our subscriptions. Give us comments where you don't like our stuff. We'll accept any kind of feedback. Junior has been blowing his nose all episode. We are thankful that even though he's day to day, he is still here, allowing us to use his basement for this podcast.
thank God bless for when you
And lest we forget, thank you to those who served and
Happy
gave
Remembrance
us the
Day,
opportunity.
Happy Veterans Day in the
to do
States.
this. Yep.
have a good night, please.
Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good week, everybody.
Thank you.